Yes, it's off by like a week difference. Really, we just need to do away with it in general. Every time you join office hours and hear my voice, you think durian smoothie. Oh god. I was actually just talking about that last night. Do not recommend. Just talking about that last night. Recommend. Do not recommend. Durian smoothie equals fart breath. I wasn't able to smell my breath after, but I definitely brushed my teeth to get the taste out. Meet up in a giant igloo in Alaska. Alternatively, ice hotel meetup. Sounds kind of miserable. Actually, I've looked into it and it doesn't seem to be that bad. Like, most of the ice hotel is art piece, not so much for hotel purposes. They have like actual hotel rooms too that aren't iced.
Hello,
Hello.
can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Yep. You are a bit quiet, but that might be my volume.
I was
I
hearing
was
myself
hearing
echo on your. I'm hearing myself echo on your. Okay. Echo, echo, test, test. Okay, all right, great. Not hearing it anymore. Okay, get ready to announce the thing. How do we do this? All right. Let people come in, and then we'll get started. Give it a minute, everyone. Usually takes a minute or two for everyone to come in. All right. Let me know. It looks like it's leveled up. We're looking like we're leveling off.
It looks about leveled off now.
All right. See. Cool. Well, let's get started. Thank you for coming to the weekly hours. We do these every week, Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Basically, what we do is we talk about what we're working on, what we're thinking about, and then we answer questions. I usually try to go for a few hours. I might not go as long today just because I'm might have like a small bit of food poisoning from a dinner last night. It's okay. I just have an allergy and I think I didn't respect it. Uh, so anyway, I might go a little like an hour today, and we'll see how it goes. Um, yep. Anyway, David is very quiet. Am I really that quiet still? I don't think I
You
should.
seem alright to me when I have you at max volume.
Yeah. Oh, my voice is just quiet today. Okay. So let's see what's going on. All right, let's talk about what we're working on. We're working on basically two big things, I think. We're gonna have a new version of um, the website where we have basically feedback, bug reporting, and the news. So that way people kind of know what's going on, without necessarily coming to the Discord server. That's kind of a concern for us. If people start using it too much, they might, and then we change things, they might not know what's happening anymore. We may not have a way to get bugs from them, and we may not be able to let them do feedback. So it's kind of a simple thing, but important. We're going to try to have the next version of the feedback system on there where there'll be an actual leaderboard too, which will be interesting. There'll be a news section with with like multiple types of news. There'll be change logs, office hour, summaries, and um, like just announcements. And so we'll have like multiple categories of news, and they'll give you little notifications. And if you don't want notifications for a particular type of post, you can sort of unclick it and you'll hide those and you won't get notifications for those. So, it makes it easier to control notifications, which is great. And the bug report is kind of like what it sounds like. You can just report a bug. And then the feedback thing is similar to the current feedback, but it'll be a little different where you can kind of like you'll get a set of items and you can allocate resources across them, and then it tries to figure out sort of the total market value of every feature, which will be cool. And yeah, so that's the website update. And then after that, we're going to be pretty focused on just getting the social stuff out. Um, it'll be like the way people to kind of do group creation. And it's working, but it's still not in testing with guides and mods. It just needs more people on it. So once we have this stuff out, we'll put more people on it. Hopefully that'll help push it over the line, and then we'll get it to guides and mods. Then when the guides and mods are happy, we'll get it to everyone. Um, Once we have all of those features together, we're going to start opening up the website for a lot more people, maybe probably people without Discord accounts at that point. And then while this is happening, we're going to be kind of slowly ramping down the requirements from 1,000 images to 500 images, etc. So that's kind of continuing to go, and I think we're getting closer and closer to a place where we can have people come on without, with or without Discord. And then the next big thing we're working on is we are going to try to do a new kind of model personalization feature, which is going to use sort of different signals from the website, whether it's like liking images or doing the ranking thing. And basically, the model personalization will not be on by default, I think, for V6, but I think it will probably be on by default for V7. And it's pretty big deal, at least so far in our testing. People pretty much universally prefer like 100% of the images with personalization on versus with it off. Personalization is not really something that is about style. It's sort of about everything that you don't specify in your prompt. So I think people have a lot of experience where you'll ask for something. You'll ask for something and then it'll fill in the blanks. And so the idea is that the model will learn what your preferences are in the blanks, basically. So if you don't specify something, it's going to get better at predicting what you like. And so, yeah, if you like people with like avant-garde fashion and you just say you want a person with a, on a cliff, maybe they'll be on a cliff with avant-garde fashion. Like it sort of will just sort of naturally sort of incorporate things that you like. It won't necessarily be so topical like that. I think it's more of like, for example, if you only like photographic stuff, the model will move more towards photographic by default. If you sort of prefer like higher contrast things, it'll pick up on that. If you kind of prefer like, like sort of compositions, it'll pick up on that. And so it kind of tries to look at everything that you prefer, and it tries to pick up on it over, and then basically slowly. It's not really like it doesn't constrain you to one style because it's still very like if you ask for something, it will give it to you. But then if you don't ask for something, it kind of will just sort of learn more about what you like. And so we're still tuning the algorithm. It's probably going to be a weird situation where we're tuning it based on, we're going to be tuning it for a while in V6. My feeling is that by the time V7 comes out, we'll be comfortable making it default. Yeah, I think it'll make everybody much happier, and it will make a much more it'll make the Midjourney images much more diverse. Yeah, we're gonna learn a lot. So obviously, like, it could go bad, but so far from testing, everyone's very happy, and it's gonna get a lot better too. There will be ways to do things that kind of look like seed locking, where you can kind of be like, I want to use sort of my style from June 13th. Or you could say, I want to use, when we're in the current version, we're going to let people actually use each other's styles. So I could say, I want to use Ancient Chaos's style from June 13th. And we'll see how that goes. The styles, yeah, I think he'll use each other's styles, but we'll see how, yeah, we'll start off that way and see how it goes. You will need a minimum number of liked images or like pair ranked images, like the ranking images. So I would recommend that people try to put 10 or 15 minutes into ranking images if you haven't already. If you want to be able to use it from day one. The rank thing is the sort of like midjourney.com/rank. So, yeah, it will be backwards compatible. So basically, it will like if you've already ranked a bunch for V6 or if you've already liked a bunch of images, it'll use those signals. I would recommend definitely. In theory, it doesn't need that many. In theory, like 15 minutes is enough. I don't know if it gets a lot better past 15 minutes. We haven't in our synthetic tests, the answer seems to be no. It does depend a little bit on how well you do ranking. So if you're like very inconsistent with your ranking, it might be helpful to have more than that, but it should be pretty good. If you have a few hundred ratings, you'll be good. If you have a few thousand ratings, you should be very good. I don't think you need 10,000 ratings to do this, but maybe one day that'll help. Liking your own images does not count. We're not going to do that. Because some people just like all their images and they basically look the same. Sorry, I'm not calling anyone out there, but like I've literally seen like some people they're just doing variations on the same cat and they like all of them, which is great for you, but we can't really do that for the algorithm. It would break things. So that's going to be a pretty big thing. For now, there'll only be sort of one personalized model per account. And it uses both the midjourney.com/rank as well as the likes on the Explore page. So you can use the likes on the Explore page, and you can use rating images on the... Basically, it only involves rating other people's images. It does not work on rating your own images. We basically don't trust people's rating of their own images. Yeah, people don't seem to be... Yeah, we don't seem to... I mean, we might be able to use a little bit of it, but it's... Currently, we're not using it. So you don't need to use the Explore page. You can just use the ranking page. So there's like midjourney.com/rank. So there's two different things you can do that we're definitely going to use. And we're looking at using more data too, but it's going to take a bit of time to um, it's going to take a bit of time to tune it, but like uh, I think if we got it at if we literally shipped what we had today to everybody, I think everybody would be very happy. So it's only going to get better. So yeah, I mean, it won't necessarily work with every other feature. It may not be perfect, but I think it's pretty important because I think right now we kind of have to have the same default aesthetic for everybody, which sucks. Like the average person in Midjourney is like a 38-year-old male, and 38-year-old males are cool, but like, there's a lot of biases associated with that. And so, a lot of people who maybe don't like the biases of Midjourney will immediately, it'll immediately change. Skip does not affect things. I don't think you have to worry about if you slightly like one image more than the other image, it's safe. It doesn't like strongly take into account any single image. It's a very weak signal. So yeah, so by default, it'll just update sort of constantly, but it's if you need to, you can kind of use a seed to like go to a certain day, basically. I don't know if we'll go more than a day, like maybe we'll do like an hour or something, but I'm not sure. Yeah. If you don't take the rankings super seriously, you may have to just do a lot more rankings to get it to stabilize, but I think it will motivate people to make their rankings more serious. Um, yeah. I think it'll be. I'm not criticizing people who are in their 30s, but yeah, and they're definitely different preferences. We've seen very, very different preferences. So, yeah, if you only like photos but you want cartoons, just say you want a photo. And it still reads your prompt. Um, yeah. I'm not going to say exactly how everything's going to work yet. So, like, don't try to sort of lock it down exactly. But, I think it's the next biggest feature we're working on, and I'm very excited about it. Um, yeah. And we are working on V7. V7 is going slowly but surely, and it will be much better than V6 and a bigger jump than V5 to V6. On the style reference side, we changed the algorithm a little bit, and I think not everybody likes so that it's more precise now, but I think not everybody likes it precise. So I think we're going to add we're going to add versioning for the style reference. And we might have just throw up 4 versions today. So, but I'm debating exactly how to exactly version it, like how to make it work exactly in terms of because it's very messy and shitty to have like versioning on multiple types of things simultaneously. And I'm just not gonna deal with it at some point, to be honest. Like we can't like we'll basically collapse under the weight of our features at some point. So I'm not going to do that. But I think we will do for the style reference this time. We'll do some versioning. We're not going to do versioning for everything. At some point, I'll tell people to like, yeah, I think we're going to do it this one time, but we're not going to like start throwing up tons of versionings for things. So don't bother me about it or I will mute you. Like at some point, I'm just not going to take it. But I think for style references, we have 2 algorithms that have very different behaviors. And I think that both behaviors are desirable in different situations. And so in some ways, we just have 2. There's really 2 versions. There's 2 different algorithms for style reference. And then there's 2 versions for each. So we're going to release a new version for every single one of them. and we'll let both be available. Um, and then we're going to, I think the reason why I'll explain it in the announcement, so I'm not going to go into too much depth right now, but we're going to do that probably today or tomorrow. And the new ones that we release will work for Niji. So that's good. We found out why the new one didn't work for Niji. So um, the model personalization will probably only be available for the main model. It will not be available for Niji for probably a long time. So just, letting you know. Um, the Niji system is not as mature as the Midjourney system in terms of how the styles are working. And so in general, the algorithms that do style for Niji run 1 to 3 months behind the rest of the Midjourney system. I think in this case it will be maybe 3 months behind. So I think there's a chance that there will not be model customization for Niji ever, and that you'll just have to wait until the V7 version of Niji. That would be my guess. The problem is that the Niji system is tuned to a Japanese aesthetic, not just anime, but like the Japanese anime, and that there are not enough Japanese users. And so, uh, yeah, we can't really use user data as easily for Niji. It's more hand-tuned like the V3, like V2, it was hand-tuned. And so it's sort of a more, if we let the user data go, it would probably like converge on the sort of like more like a weeby Western anime, and it freaks the Japanese people out because it looks terrible in their eyes. So there's like these nuanced differences between sort of like the Japanese vision of anime and the like Western vision of anime. And so obviously personalization could mean that it could make your stuff as sort of weeby as you want, but uh, I think uh, yeah, I think it's not. It's just it's complicated and kind of shitty in the way that the style system. I feel like maybe shitty is a strong word. It's complicated and it's not as flexible as the style system for the normal Midjourney, and so it's just not probably going to be able to do this easily. So I would assume that it's not going to come out for Niji. Um, yeah. So the personalization will be really big. And then there'll be the SREF systems, and then yes, the free hours. Um, so we turned off the free hours for rating. And basically, we're getting like 30% fewer ratings, which is fine. Like most people are still doing ratings without the rewards. We know the rewards are very useful to some people, so we would like to bring back more ways of getting free hours. We did find that a lot of the people who are sort of like botnetting the the GPU things are not stopping when we stop the rewards. They just are keep going anyway. So they're kind of continuing to contaminate the system. So we're probably going to have to take more aggressive measures against botting on the ratings. I think the personalization is one way of helping because you will kind of ruin your personalization if you bot it. But I think we may also have to like start punishing people who are botting the rating system. And so, normally we just ban people from the service. I really don't like banning people from the service, so I don't totally know what we're gonna do yet. We might ban people from the service for botting the ranking, so don't do it. We're considering it strongly. And so don't mess with the ranking system. Yeah, last warning before we start banning people. So it'll probably be, it's a, yeah. And so we didn't really want to do it. We've been spending some time on trying to understand exactly the nature of the abuse. And so it's really nice when people don't abuse our system because it wastes a lot of our time to have to kind of like turn onto policemen and track down the bad people and then punish them. It really it's not the fun part of I think of our jobs, especially because like you'll occasionally ban somebody that you shouldn't ban. So like, it potentially puts us in a situation where we have to like, or somebody innocent gets banned by mistake, which is not good. Um, so I don't know. Um, we're debating like what our punishment systems are. So we're gonna try to figure that out. Um, and then I think we might just turn we might turn the rating hours back on sooner rather than later because the bots aren't stopping even though we turned it off. So I think what we're gonna do is we'll probably turn the free rating hours back on and then just like ban a few thousand people or something, which is a little intense. I don't like banning 1,000 people, but there are a lot of people who seem to be doing it, which is why yeah, we added captchas to it. So we basically have added captchas and tests to the ranking. If anybody's tried it lately, you might get like little things when you're doing it. And I think we're basically finding like 20% of them are failing the captchas. So yeah, we basically 30% of people stopped ranking, 20% of people were still using bots. So it's just sort of like a very frustrating situation. So I think we'll probably bring back the GPU hours and start banning people. And unfortunately, I think we might have to ban people because if we just like, I don't know, I feels like it's you kind of have to do like if you don't do that, then I don't know. I'm trying to yeah, but it's been a bit frustrating and weird to see that behavior. But we'll figure it out. But like basically, yeah, it's probably like some group of bots in China or something like trying to get free hours to generate like a stock photo for like a China stock website. Like there's a lot of weird things like that that you wouldn't think are real, but um and I'm not just saying China, but like um yeah, there could be there could be some there's like the botnets tend to come from like specific places. They either come from countries where, the buying a $60 subscription is more expensive, or, like South America is a great place where like our stuff is kind of too expensive. Yeah, it could be a competitor. We've had almost 90% of the major outages of our service have been from a competitor hitting our website or servers in some bad way. So we have had that a lot. Um, it's really, and I mean, we kind of shamed stability a little bit for taking the servers down for 24 hours, but Um, we a lot more companies have done it too. So um, yeah, it's just yeah, I don't really like this. It's like there's like a whole it's like a cyber war, a little bit of a cyber. It feels like a cyber war sometimes on our system, but it's fine, I guess. Um, Even like GitHub has this problem, I guess. Anyway, what else is going on? We have some video models. We'll probably like let a few. I'm not like super happy with it. But there are, yeah, I would say like works better than most stuff out there, but I'm not really happy with it yet. I mean, it mostly works better because our stuff just looks better, but I'm not really happy with it yet. So I'm not convinced that we're gonna ship a We were thinking there's like a V6 video model and a V7 video model. I'm not convinced that we will ship a V6 video model currently. I'm like leaning towards the video coming after V7 because the V7 will look a lot better. And so um, we'll probably wait till V7 to do video. And what else? Our hardware, first hardware stuff is starting to get finished up for data capture. And so at some point we'll be capturing 3D data soon. And then I think we'll try training some 3D models again. There's a good chance that, like, if we get lucky, then the first version of our 3D capture hardware will immediately give us enough data pretty quick to start doing a 3D Midjourney again. So before I thought that the video Midjourney would come out first. Now it's possible the 3D will come out first. I would say there's at least a 50% chance now that 3D comes out before video. So we'll see. Um, and That's exciting. We've been trying to do some drawing real-time stuff, but we're having a hard time making it feel good for artists. So I think um, yeah, I'm not as confident about whether that is a short-term project now. So we're doing these sort of like, yeah, drawing things, video things, 3D things. I would say the 3D, like we did a test 3D thing that looked pretty good like 6 months ago. But we didn't have enough data to do it. So if we have the data, it's relatively low risk. Um, Whereas video requires probably our next generation architecture. So we'll see. And there's some risk around V7. Like I think in the next 2 weeks we'll kind of know if it's gonna be really soon or not soon. Like there's a couple of major risk points that we have to de-risk still. But we're kind of trying to make a big jump, so we're taking on a little bit of risk, and that's okay. That's what we're here for. Um, all these will probably like start from images and then goes from image to 3D or image to video. I don't think we're gonna go text straight to 3D or text straight to video. It doesn't really make sense. Um, Anything else? Mm, yeah, I mean, we have a lot of other things we're working on, but that's probably all we're talking about for now. There's a lot that we want to do to improve the website design, but I think we're not going to focus on design in a way that blocks getting the website out to more people. So I think what we're trying to do is we want to get the website to sort of the level of functionality that we want, and then we'll start drilling down more and more on the design. Obviously,
that means the design's going to change a lot. And it's not going to change a lot today, but it's going to change a lot in the future. And people will be like, why'd you change my thing? But I think that it's probably on the whole the right thing to do. So we're gonna focus mostly on the feedback, bug reporting, news, and then we're moving to the group creation, and then we'll start opening the website up to more and more people. Um, yep. There may be partnerships with other labs, but hopefully those partnerships can come after the web stuff, because then we can kind of push people to the website. Um, cool. So I think that's it. Um, we can do some lightning round questions now. So in VC text, you can type your questions. Um, one day we'll let you use outside images with Midjourney stuff. Right now we don't want to because it's too much work on the moderation side. But eventually we probably will. Um, we need like the next generation of AI moderator, I think, before we do this more complicated stuff. But there is like a better moderator coming that won't just look at like one of your images. That won't just like look at your prompts, but will look at the images and will look at collections of images and collections of prompts and, be like, hey, bro, what you doing? Um, there will be a style random, I hope, in the next week. We'll see. We need to do re we need the next version of the feedback system to kind of have a newer ranking of the items. The top two things before was the character consistency and the style consistency, and now that those are out, it'll be interesting to see like what the next top things are. Weird is not really compatible with NG6. Most things involving style are not compatible with NG6. NG6 unfortunately has like a more complicated and less flexible style system than the main system. So there's just a lot of things that Niji will not be able to do. In general, I would say use Niji if you want to make anime images in a Japanese style, but maybe don't use it. Like use the main model otherwise. Um, I don't know. That's like my personal, just because you're going to get more features on the main model. Like the Niji is going to obviously be way, way, way better at anime, like the sort of Japanese style anime. But I mean, to be honest, even you can ask it for that Japanese anime in the main model too, and it's pretty good. So I think, I don't know. I mean, I watch anime and I am pretty happy with the main model, but I know people who watch way more anime than me that are much happier with the Niji model. So I would say like if the main model isn't good enough in anime for you, use Niji, but otherwise you might not get all the new features, and I'm sorry about that. Um, yeah. I don't think we're gonna do transparency for a while. It seems kind of like you can just literally use like freetransparencymaker.com. I don't know if we're really gonna add value there, but I'm trying to find new questions. Sorry, I'm just scrolling down. Um, my favorite animes are Ghost in the Shell, Cowboy Bebop, uh, Gundam, Trigun, um, Psychopaths, Vampire Hunter D. Those are a few off the top of my head. I don't know if there's going to be a random style thing, like for the personalization. I will think about it. Probably not, but I'm not sure. It is interesting. Hey, I don't know if we can avoid false positives on banning Ranker, so we might just have to ban, like, I don't know. I'm a little worried about that, but Um, trying to figure out what to do there. That's one reason why I really didn't want to have to start policing a new thing. Right? At some point, we need to like literally hire like the Midjourney chief of police. Uh, I mean, I would say it's moderation, but sometimes it feels like we're running a police force because you have to be like a detective and like it feels, I don't know. Yeah, it sucks. And then there's like this sort of weird like American public require like there's a sort of weird government thing where I don't know, not government, it's like there's like this weird thing going on in America right now where people are like more and more pushing for us to like, uh yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I was just talking about like moderation in general. Everyone's like, we don't like let us make everything. Don't let anyone make anything. Let them make everything. Don't make everything. Anyway, I don't know what that GIF is of the little David. I'm not sure what that is. New upscalers. Probably no new upscalers. Maybe we'll have an up when we have some we have like an update coming that will make V6 cheaper for both regular images and upscalers. And make it faster. So at some point, I'm hoping that things get like 30% cheaper across the board. Maybe in some areas it'll be 20%, in some areas it'll be 50%, but it's like a pretty big speed up is coming. So that's hopefully going to ship in the next week or so, a week or two. I mean, it's like a big change, so but it would make everything faster and cheaper. We could update character consistency, but I'm currently not planning on updating it. And instead, we're thinking of just pushing to V7. For 3D, it'll be image to 3D, not video to 3D. Um, yeah, we may or may not bring back slash tune. I'm like debating on it still. I don't think we're planning on importing 3D meshes into Midjourney. Mid, oh yeah, I like that. The Midjourney Homeland Security. I like that better, yeah. Or we could have the Midjourney Space Force, yeah. Um, what's my favorite high school memory? Oh, geez. I'm gonna be honest. I was not a huge fan of high school. I was like probably one of my worst. Like I just like I was like not I was like not a super I was kind of I'm not a super happy kid in high school. I was like borderline emo. Like I mean I don't think I had like I wasn't like I was visually emo. Like I had like my flame t-shirt, like my black flame, blue flame t-shirt or whatever. I don't know, but like I was not a happy high schooler. What's my favorite high school memory? I don't know. I mean, I guess I got to compete in the International Science Fair. That was pretty great. Um, I had like a cool time where I got caught out in a lightning storm in a sailboat by myself. That was really cool. I guess I had like friends I used to do a lot of martial arts with. So like flying out to meet a lot of friends and do like it was kind of intense. It was like full contact martial arts with like no padding, and the only rule was don't break any bones, punch anyone in the face or anybody in the groin on purpose. So it was kind of hardcore. So I used to do like parkour and martial arts as a kid. So it was kind of fun, I guess. I did that more in high school. Uh, yeah, I would like to make some features specifically for architecture, but we just haven't gotten around to it yet. We will have some way of doing office hours on the website, but for now, we're going to focus on making office hour summaries available on the website. I think I'm trying to find somebody who will like edit the office hours into like a short thing, and then we'll post those on the website. Maybe it'll only be like a 15-minute or 10-minute thing on the website, but we're going to try to have something posted there. We do ban a lot of bots already, for whatever it's worth. It sucks, but we ban a lot of bots. Um, yeah, middle school was my best experience. I just had like a lot of great friends in middle school. It was kind of weird. I feel like my best school was like sixth to eighth grade. No, I feel like sixth and seventh grade, and like first and second grade. But like third grade, ninth grade, those are hard grades. My science fair project was about using arrays of microphones to track sounds. So it basically I had like a science fair board with a microphone array built into it and cables coming down and going into a laptop, and the laptop would like track us in 3D space as we walked around the science fair board explaining the project. Um, if you do upscale creative, it's going to be more different every time than upscale subtle. Upscale subtle is pretty similar every time. I'm sorry that upscale isn't great still. We'll probably have a better, I think the V7 will be way, way, way better at upscaling. I don't think personalization is coming out this week, maybe next week. I don't think we know exactly what our user interface for video generation is going to look like yet. We'll probably come out with the new style references this week. Style random may or may not come out this week. Personalization is probably, if we're lucky, next week. If we're unlucky, the week after that. We're definitely going to add more upscaler stuff. I think the V7 upscaler will be really great. I think the V7 upscaler is going to be the best upscaler, the best high resolution stuff in the world at that point. But I think that V6 has like a limit to how good it can be because of the way that it's implemented. But I think V7 is going to be more than a month and less than 3 months. Yeah, there'll be a way to choose between the style reference models. I'm just debating. I have to decide today, like, is it going to be like 1A, 1B, A1, A2, like how, 1, 2, 3, 4? I have to decide how we do it. V7 upscaling will only work on V7 images, sorry. V7, V6 should come out of alpha shortly, in the next week or two. We don't have an exact timeline, but we're going to open up the website as soon as we can. Once we have the group creation features, the news features, the bug report features, the feedback features. I have coded with processing before. You will be able to turn personalization off. Our current plan for V6 is that personalization will be off by default, and for V7 it will probably be on by default. We will have galleries at some point, but I'm not sure. It's interesting, synthetic intelligence versus artificial intelligence. I probably think it's too late to change the name, but AI and AI is probably it's been around too long. But I like to call it synthetic media sometimes instead of. I don't really like AI art, but I like synthetic media, or more. But yeah. Yeah, the current plan is that you'll be able to use other people's personalization too. That everybody will be able to use everybody else's personalization, which is a little scary, but I think it'll be okay. Um, we'll have a mood board system in the future, but it's not I don't think we're doing mood boards right now. Yeah, I don't like generative media. I don't like generative AI. I kind of hate those buzzwords. I feel like there's like an industry of people who just crank out buzzwords, and they're universally bad at making them. Ugh, generative AI like creeps me out every time I hear it. I don't like the name. Synthetic media sounds so much cooler. Generative AI. It's like as if I don't know. I just like I really don't like the word. I don't know anybody who uses that word who's in the field. Synthesis. Yeah, I like synthesis. Is not the worst. Yeah. Um. Yeah, I try not to use the word AI. I'm not a huge fan of even the word AI per se, because it's never really clear like what is AI and what is just like computers. Like yeah, what's it? Yeah, and there's an argument that like whenever something's been around for long enough, we don't call it AI anymore, but I'm not sure. But yeah, machine learning, I like that a little better because it differentiates the things from things that don't learn. So a lot of AI, so most AI historically did not learn. It just was like rules that you programmed. And so the idea of things that actually learn is pretty new and big. Yeah, we'll make perceptrons great again. There's actually a paper written about artificial neural networks by Turing, like one of the original godfathers of computing, and it was quite compelling. The original idea of learning computers comes back from his like the 20s or 30s, but it went through like a dark age and then took too long to come back. Um, Quantum. Oh yeah. Okay, so yeah, V7 Midjourney model will be based on quantum technology. We use the quantum waves to make things good. Yes. It's all about chaos, you see. Yeah, we're not sure if we'll bring tune back or make something more complicated. I think the style tuning. So style tuning is going to be generally better for everything than slash tune. Like I think when most people were trying to make slash tune, they were trying to make like something that they liked, really. But I think that I'm pretty sure the personalization will just be better than slash tune for almost everything, even though you only have one personalization, but we'll see. We're not doing anything with quantum. Quantum doesn't really work. It's kind of, yeah, I hate to say it. Quantum computing never really worked out. It's not, I don't think people are pretty down on it right now. Um, we used to talk about having like code names for the models. Yeah, I don't think we would call it quantum. That sound we were thinking of calling it like um Project Guppy. And so it's like, yeah, Project Guppy is coming and it's gonna take over the world. The Guppy is coming. We're going to release Guppy on Friday. Something that sounds sort of really, yeah. Uh, what's the best good hard sci-fi that discusses science and philosophy? So, I mean, my favorite still, I think my favorite sci-fi books are still Star Maker and The Last and First Men. It's one of the first, some of the first sci-fi ever written, and weirdly some of the greatest sci-fi ever written. So, Star Maker and The Last and First Men. And then I also like Accelerando. I also like uh, A Fire Upon the Deep and A Deepness in the Sky. And then there's like short stories. And then like um, short stories are like they're made out of meat and The Last Question. And mm, mm, there's also one called I sexually identify as an attack helicopter. It's kind of controversial, but I don't know. Uh, they kind of took it down off the internet, but you can still find it if you go under Wikipedia. It's in the Internet Archive. But I actually think it was like one of the better sci-fi things written in the last few years. It was written by this like anonymous trans author, and it's about like a future where the military weaponizes gender. And so it's about a woman who uh, basically goes into the military and has tactical gender reassignment therapy, where they basically change her gender into being a helicopter, and then her friend is like has a tactical gender reassignment therapy into being a gun. And so the story is about this person who is a helicopter on a mission with a person who's a gun. And then in the middle of the mission, the gun starts getting gender dysphoria. Like, am I really a gun? And it's sort of like, focus on the mission and blow up a school because they're on a mission to like blow up a high school in like the middle of Arizona or something. Yeah, so it's kind of a weird future. Sorry, it's like a really it's like as weird and as weird as it sounds. Um, you just don't get stuff like that written very much. But yeah, sorry, it's pretty weird. I mean, all the books I put are pretty weird. Um, so like Accelerando starts off with a venture altruist who gives away ideas in exchange for favors, and then all of a sudden he gets contacted by a mind uploaded lobster that's escaped onto the internet and is trying to get political amnesty, like trying to escape the KGB and get to space. So like that one's pretty weird. Um, a lot of the books that I put are pretty weird, um, to be honest. Um, I mean, Ghost in the Shell is like a weird anime. It's about this, like maybe a woman, maybe not, that like part of a secret police force with like a full cyborg body that like fights crime. Um, that one's pretty like fighting like uh mind hackers, from the internet. It's pretty weird. And yeah, Neuromancer is great. True Names. I also really love True Names. It's sort of about like a age of sorcery and BCIs and sort of like hacker sorcerers fighting like a giant. But yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah, I think there's a whole like trans conversation around whether or not Motoko was born as a male or a female. I think there's a lot of people who nowadays say that like Motoko was male, but actually always felt they were female, and so when they eventually got like a full body cyborg replacement, like they chose female, I think is like one of the modern interpretations of Ghost in the Shell. Um, I don't know if that's true, but it's interesting. Yeah. I mean, also kind of like Ghost in the Shell is weird because I mean, it really doesn't matter what their original gender was. Like you really, it's kind of hard to believe that that matters. I mean, it's intellectually interesting from an artistic standpoint, whether like the author intended that interpretation, but um, but yeah, Motoko is probably one of my favorite sci-fi characters. She's just such a fucking badass. Um, anyway, Uh, any other questions? Yeah, I'm not feeling as sick right now, so maybe I could go to some voice questions. Yeah, I was gonna get off a little early, but we could take 30 minutes, I guess, of voice questions. So, all right, let's do a few voice questions. People can raise your hands, and Ancient will bring you up onto the stage.
Hello,
Hello.
David. Quick question. So, Midjourney has been around for a little over 2 years. What do you feel is your biggest accomplish, and what do you feel that you could have changed?
Um, yeah, I don't know. Accomplishment is sort of a weird. I don't really think about my life in terms of accomplishments, if that sounds. eh, Yeah, and if anything, I'm always like just trying to do better. Like you're never really fully. It's normal for people, some people to not be satisfied. Um, Not to say that things are ever disappointing per se, but like I think I'm pretty proud of having like a giant community. That's pretty cool. It feels I'm very happy with the community thing. I think that's the thing I'm most happy about. I mean, obviously at times when everybody is angry about something, that is also the worst thing too. But hopefully, I know that for every like 3 people who are cranky, there's 10 people who are happy. Um, yeah. And my previous company also had a big community, but I didn't really have a way of interacting with them. There wasn't really community building stuff in the same way back then. So I'm pretty grateful that, with the whole Discord thing and having people on here like this, pretty cool.
Okay. What about um, what you feel that you could have changed or improved if you had the chance?
I probably could have been more aggressive and less risk averse on a lot of things. Like we've been generally pretty conservative on a lot of things, so we probably could have moved a lot faster. So yeah, we should probably be like we probably could be one more version along right now. Like we could probably be at V7 or V8 already if we were a little bit more aggressive. Um, yeah. I mean, I really want to have like some non-image related products at some point. I would like to say I wish those happened sooner or that the website was available sooner. I'm not sure if that's possible though, because the way that just takes like a year to build a team. So we don't think we've been around long enough to necessarily do a lot of the other things faster. But we have been around long enough to have done our web stuff fast. Sorry, our algorithm stuff faster.
Okay. Another quick question. Do you ever feel like having a Midjourney Bitcoin?
No, I'm not like a huge crypto guy. Um, like obviously the idea of a decentralized currency that is not the American dollar could make sense under certain sort of geopolitical conditions. Uh, I think that from a purely rational standpoint, that's just I understand that. But I think the thing that I don't like about crypto is its sort of focus on artificial scarcity because I'm sort of fundamentally about a post-scarcity civilization. Like my main motivation is to get us to post-scarcity. Now I know that like as long as we have physical scarcity, you need money that also is scarce because money acts as sort of this transactional intermediary, and the money has to be proportionally scarce to the scarcity that exists in the world. However, I don't find myself motivated by money. I don't find myself motivated by scarcity. I certainly don't want to create any scarcity. I think my main motivation in life, um, certainly at least one of my main motivations in life, is actually moving us more to a post-scarcity civilization,
You want
where we
everybody
don't
to
need
be
anything.
like on an even playing field.
No, I don't think it's realistic. Be- I don't think everyone will ever be on I don't think people will necessarily ever be on an even playing field because like our lives have randomness and chance, and some people are going to get lucky and some people are going to get unlucky, and it sucks. But like there's like to the extent that there is free will and random chance, it's hard to say that anybody can really, you can have the same outcomes. But I do think that most of the things right now that our lives are defined by in terms of scarcity, whether it's like food or shelter, um, friends, like relationships, even. Like, I think that we should have a civilization where like it should be easy to find great people. It should be easy to like, find a relationship with somebody else that like find a great relationship. It should be easy to like, have food and shelter. And it should be easy to like we shouldn't have to we shouldn't have to have jobs in order to have food and shelter. We should have jobs because we want to uh,
The
help the
basic
world
necessity
someone.
should be solved.
Yeah, all the basic necessities, and particularly material necessities, I think. And I think the material necessities, I mean, they're all a lot of the things. I think we can basically solve most of the scarcity that exists today within the century. I don't think there's any existing scarcity that we have words for that should not, uh, yeah, except for perhaps a scarcity of time.
Sure.
But yeah, I think
I've
I watched a lot of Star Trek as a kid, and this is how it works in Star Trek. In Star Trek, there's no money because they have replicators so that can produce anything made out of matter from energy, and they have teleporters that can teleport you from one space to another. And so it turns out that most of what money is used for is either producing goods or moving them from point A to point B. And so when you can move things from point A to point B for free and you can produce them for free, most of what money is just goes away. And so obviously, I don't think that's how we're going to get to post scarcity, but that's just how they did it in Star Trek. And so I like this idea that, we, when you move people out of scarcity, they don't just lie around and watch TV. Like they get bored. You have to, like, to be human, you have to do stuff. And so at the end of the day, you do stuff that you're passionate about. You do stuff to help people. You do stuff to be better. Like there's to explore, and I think that's sort of that, that future is more desirable for me. And I
Yeah,
can't
you have
say
to
that
have a
like
motivation somewhere.
yeah, and I don't want to say like money is evil because like capitalism was obviously a very successful invention and has lifted effectively all of civilization out of like most of civilization out of poverty. And it's really interesting if anybody wants to like I used to be sort of super anti-capitalist, but then I read the original book called The Wealth of Nations, which was like the 1600s book about like proposing capitalism. And like to be honest, like it made fucking sense. Like on average, a trade between two people involving money is good for both parties. And so the more that people trade, the more that everybody gets richer until everybody is rich, which sounds insane, but it basically has worked out that way over the last 400 years. Like if you compare
There's
things,
good and evil to it.
well, I wouldn't say, I don't, I don't know if the word good and evil is the right word, but I think that there are problems to capitalism that were not understood at the onset, but also solutions that we haven't implemented at the onset. So the proposed capitalism was also involved having like a strong government, and I don't think we have a strong government to sort of regulate capitalism. Like our government doesn't really pass laws enough, you
Yeah,
know?
well, that's where the evil comes into play, where if they aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing for the people that the community, it becomes faulty.
Yeah, unfortunately, it feels like it's kind of a lot of things have been sort of weirdly politicized. But I mean, I think um, I think actually maybe the bigger problem with capitalism was that on average, a trade between two people makes both more wealthy, but also on average, the party who has more money tends to get slightly wealthier in a trade than the other person. And maybe it's only 1%. Like maybe the wealthier person gets 1% extra out of the deal. But what that means is that over hundreds of years, that 1% adds up, and then all the money ends up in one place. And so there's sort of like a natural gravitation to capitalism that naturally leads in sort of leads to money black holes. And that is the problem. And I think there hasn't been a great solution implemented for that. Hypothetically, what you should do is there should be like a tax that kind of goes up exponentially as you make more money until you can't make more money, and then all that tax gets like redistributed back to the bottom or something. At some like there's like some like basically like a tax that funds a universal basic income. In theory, not to sound like a tech bro who says universal basic income, but there's two ways for everybody. There's two ways for people to kind of move out of scarcity, right? Either there's a basic income that's given to everybody, which allows you to pay for those things, or the price of things goes down so much that even with like a really shitty job, you can pay for everything. So,
Some
yeah.
of the things I've heard from billionaires is they have so much money, and there's only so many things they can spend their money on, and it gets to the point where people demand from them to spend their money this way and this way and this way, and it becomes an even bigger issue.
I don't think the problem is billionaires not being able to spend money. I think the problem is governments not spending money well. I think the problem isn't billionaires spending billions of dollars poorly. The problem is the government spending trillions of dollars poorly. You
I
know,
mean, there's
like
never
the
been a
government.
successful business ran by a government, so
Yeah, I mean, it's like Bill Gates could give away all of his money, but the government will spend that in like 3 hours on mostly like $1 million toilets and $3 million bus stations and trains that never get built. So I think that, and bombs, yeah. Um, I think 1984 talked about how like the best thing to do with extra money is to turn them into bombs. Because it's like allows people to never, it's like well, if you didn't spend the money on bombs, like you'd have to be lifting people out of poverty or something. Like, I really, um, yeah, I am a lot more bothered by the way the government spends money than billionaires.
oh
Uh,
yeah, for sure.
yeah, and uh, yeah, like a billionaires might buy really giant houses, which is weird, but then the government spend the same amount of money on, like way more money on public like public toilets. Like there's this San Francisco spent like $1.5 million on a single public toilet, and it was an example of like just like insane. And it took like 20 months to make or something. It was just this insane example of things. And then they have these like $1 million bus stations that are just like a single piece of metal. So there's like a lot of examples of the governments to just, I feel like if a billionaire made $1 million toilet, people would criticize them, you know? But for some reason,
Well,
the government makes $1 million toilet, and we don't freak out,
the best
right?
way that capitalism works is when the money is recycled through. So when a billionaire spends, millions of dollars on a house, they pay the contractors, they pay the property taxes, they hire maids, they et cetera, et cetera. When a government spends money, it's usually not recycled back into the community.
And I think there are a lot of ways government spends money well, but I just think that the problem right now is I think no matter what, you can only be so efficient. Like even if somebody is on a minimum wage job and you ask them, nine out of $10 spent perfectly, they'll be like, no. And then if a billionaire is the same way, so a billionaire at most will be 90% efficient, which means they're going to waste $100 million on just stupid things. And the question is like, is our government also 90% efficient? And the answer is probably not. It's probably like 30% efficient. And so the government is probably like 3 times less efficient than the average person, but it's spending 100 times more money. So I feel like if we want to if the goal is just get more money spent well, it's probably first starting on government and then eventually moving down to like, the minimum wage person last, you know? Uh, Although I think there's an argument that, for example, maybe there's a universal basic income at some point, and maybe you can't spend it on absolutely anything. Maybe the universal basic income is like only on, like I could imagine a universe where, maybe you want to say we're giving everybody like $2,000 a month, but you have to spend it on food or shelter or education. You can't spend it on entertainment, you know? And like that wouldn't be insane. But
But didn't
yeah.
we do that with COVID relief bill?
Yeah. I don't think the COVID. No, I don't think so. There were people using well, I guess there was COVID relief and there was a small business thing.
True.
There was a bunch of different COVID programs, and some of them were probably better than others. But um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, all I say is that, we just yeah, I think the governments are not as efficient as they could be. Not as and if we could, a situation where I mean, you could just if I was a libertarian, I would say the government should just not be spending money. And I'm not convinced that's true. I think, for example, China spends money in a pretty good way. Like they build huge trains, they build huge cities, they do great huge projects like mega dams. It's like kind of cool, and I wish America did the same thing. But I think America spends like money on we spending $100 billion on trains in California too. We just never build them, and it just goes to like goes to nowhere. And so, yeah. So I think government spending is good, but I think that our government is not doing a great job at it right now.
I
Yeah.
think it should start off from the people first. Like the government proposes a bill, the community votes on it, and then it goes to the House, and the House goes, "Okay, this many people looked at it and said yes," and then they decide instead of just a few representatives deciding on the bill to approve it or not.
I mean,
It needs more votes from the community, I say.
we should reform democracy into more modern systems of collective governance, but I think that is a larger, more long distance project that's not going to happen easily, but it will eventually happen. The American
Yeah,
government, like the American government, was constructed to be as slow as possible in order to make it safe. So I think it's not gonna happen for a while.
I
So
see
let's
it
move on from
currently
government.
being ran like an HOA instead of a community, is what I see it as.
Yeah. Anyway, post
Okay.
scarcity civilization is the goal, and I don't know if politics helps. Governments could help, and I hope they do.
Yeah. I appreciate your talk and thank you for your time.
Mhm.
Hello there. Oh,
Hello.
am I on? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So you may have gone over this earlier, and I apologize if I missed it. So when you're talking about like Midjourney 3D, are you talking about like stuff you could export to Blender and actually use and stuff?
Maybe. I
Whoa.
think we're
Okay. I was just
not.
wondering, is it like just rotating a picture around like that pseudo 3D thing, or like actual 3D?
We're
That's
more
all I was
interested.
curious about.
We're more interested in rotating an image than exporting things to Blender, but we
Oh,
might
okay.
export things to Blender at some point. But
Well,
I'm like not. The problem is that we export things to Blender and someone's like, "Yeah, it's a 3D model, but I want better alpha. I want better like normal maps." And we're just like, we don't care.
we just want
It's
3D
it's
pictures.
yeah, we don't really care actually. And so it's like similar with video. Someone's gonna be like, "Yeah, you made a video, but I want to have like a full nonlinear editing solution that runs in the cloud with full AI integration.
Oh, and
Like,
audio
I was
too.
like,
The
and I'm
video
like,
needs
yeah,
to
and
have
I'm just
audio.
like, I don't care about those things. So, yeah, I think we're kind of our goal is to move to open real-time worlds simulation. And so the idea is like, if we have 3D Midjourney and we have video Midjourney, and then we have real-time Midjourney that like runs really fast, then if we put all three of those things together, real-time video 3D, then we have a world simulation. And so right
Oh,
now
so
the
like
goal
oh, sorry.
the goal is to build each of those three things separately and then to bring them all together.
Now, when you say that, are you talking about like a VR chat kind of thing, or like one of those buzzword quote unquote metaverse kinds of things?
We're going to make more of a sandbox.
Okay, like
It's not really
Gary's
meant
mod.
to maybe I think it's going to be look more like Minecraft insofar that like everybody in Minecraft has the access to the block, and like the block is sort of the universal element, like atom of the world, and everybody can kind of manipulate them equally. And so I
Oh,
think in this case, it's more of like a universe where everybody has access to the same atoms, which are, words or something like that. It's obviously not just going to be words, but the idea of like we have a universe where everybody has the word and the word can kind of shape reality. So
that sounds really cool.
yeah. And I think people will like make video games from it, and there'll be a lot of other things. People can shoot movies in it, but I think the goal is to kind of build the sort of open world sandbox
Oh, so like an
system.
actual like open world sandbox. Like, could you call it a game, or would it not be a game?
It's not a game because we're not going to build games into it. It's a sandbox, meaning like you can play in the sandbox, but the sandbox isn't a game.
That makes sense. Okay, yeah, that's the only question I had. Thank you so much for answering it. Totally go on to someone else, Sam.
Yeah, so we're really trying to go to the world simulation because I think that's kind of the final thing. And if we get distracted by going too deep on 3D models or too deep on video, like on movies, then we'll never get to the world simulation. So the world simulation is our goal. So that's kind of where we're going to be going.
Well, I'm totally looking forward to it.
Thank you. Great voice, by the way. Someone's like, China is bad at spending money. America, don't use them as a good example. I mean, bro, all the governments waste money. You said it. Like, if we're like, American government be like 30% efficient. I don't know if the Chinese government is. I think the Chinese government is more than 30% efficient. I don't know what it is. So, but even if you're only like 80% efficient, it means you're going to build 8 cities and 2 of them are going to be empty. Like, it's just sort of that's the nature of inefficiency. So I think the goal is to not criticize the inefficiency of like different governments intrinsically, but just try to say we want our governments to be more efficient. And, like, we want the governments to spend money. Spending money is good on big projects. Like, things are for the good of everybody, and we want it to be efficient. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
All right. I want to redirect from. Hello. I was going to redirect from politics to aesthetics.
Yay.
I think it was last one that you had some kind of comment where each model was successfully better. 3 to 4 to 5 to 6, and I think of it as a space of possibility. Like there's like the set of all possible images, and each model can hit some subset of that possibility. And definitely, I think each model has areas where it's better. But I actually think in particular, Model 3 had like a beauty to it that I feel like even Model 6 can't quite capture.
Yeah.
In that,
Mhm.
yeah, and I guess so. The question is, you may know exactly how you achieve that. I don't know. It seems like there is a trade-off of accuracy and precision to depict what's actually in the world versus something that was just more flexible and creative and playful, to just use descriptive terms. And I was wondering if there was a way to kind of bring that back, not for everything, but as like maybe a parameter. Like here's a a more like version 3 parameter, whatever we would call it, that trades off some accuracy for maybe some more fluid beauty.
We don't know exactly why V3 is more vibey than V4. We have a theory. We have not tested the theory yet, but we're going to test the theory soon, hopefully at the latest with V7. So V7 is being defined is being architected in a way where it will be able to do things very similarly to V3 in theory. So if we're lucky, V7 will be a lot more vibey than V6, and it will look more like V3. And I think there's a way to make it vibey in a way that doesn't lose precision. We'll have to see. It's a little hard to know, but theoretically, V7 will be able to be more vibey. We're going to basically do tests of this soon. So we have like one theory for why this is,
Awesome.
and if that theory is wrong, we'll have to reevaluate it. But oh no, we have two theories. We have two theories for what makes V3 more vibey, and we'll test both for V7. And if either of them work, then we'll have a more vibey V7.
I think that would be excellent. I think, like, particularly with V5, I felt like my best V5 images always use image prompts that had V3 guiding it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and you can still do that, and I think it works really well with the style reference too, or something. I haven't tried that, but
with V6, it feels like it pushes it into a little bit of a cartoony space. So I can't really give it V3 images and still have it be photographic. It ends up in this kind of odd middle ground. I still do it, but it's not quite as successful.
yeah, we're definitely going to try to. I think that's definitely one of the areas that we are most unhappy with V4, V5, and V6.
Great. Well, I look forward to it and the rest of the conversation.
All right, we'll try to do our best. It's definitely important to us.
All right. Thank you.
We're going to try to make V7 both better at being vibey. We're going to try to make it better at vibey prompts too. There's a bunch of things we're going to try to make more vibey. Hello. Ashpool, you are muted.
Sorry about that, man. How's it going? Thank you.
Hello.
Hey, what's up? So, quick question. I just kind of have been like, hearing the word AI like 1,000 times a day, like all of us, and it's like it started to kind of like creep into my dreams in a way, and I'm beginning to have like bad dreams sometimes, and it's like I kind of wonder,
Okay.
like, are there real dangers? And like, are you personally worried about any of the dangers that we are entering in this new age?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think it's going to work out, but there are lots of hypothetical dangers. Um, maybe there's always any danger with technology that we're going to discover something dangerous that, like a nuclear weapon that anyone can make in their basement out of like Cheetos. And then all of a sudden
Exactly.
everybody's going to be constructing nuclear weapons out of Cheetos. And then the world will blow up. Like that's a risk. I don't know if that's more of a risk with AI than it is with, like physics, but it is a risk. Obviously, like there's a lot of bio threats that AI could be related to, but I also think AI could solve a lot of the bio threats. I think it's not how should I say? It's a little bit like fire or water. They're both, like fire can burn a town down and water can wash a town away. But we are happy that we are a civilization of water and a civilization of fire. And I'm very certain that I would not be surprised if people were, if fire was very controversial in that way. Like, hey man, don't have any of that here. It's gonna burn the town down. And it's possible a few towns were burnt down. I think it's still, yeah, it's not really about AI in some ways. It's just about um, should we try to grow or should we try to stay the same? And is it possible to stay the same? Or is it sort of just growth or decay? And I think, in my opinion, it's not really a matter of growth or safety. I think it's growth or decay. I don't think it's possible to stay the same. And so I think that things are just going to change, and they've always changed. And all we have is a choice of how we can make that change, and whether it's good or bad, and, whether it aligns with our values and our aesthetics. And so, I think AI is a lever and a tool in most of that regard. Obviously, you can make AIs that are independent agents and could have their own opinions, and that has its own risks. However, I think we already live in a world that is filled with superhuman entities. They're just called governments and corporations and culture and language. And we are kind of okay. Um, but in a lot of ways, we're these sort of tribal animals that that are running at billion scale, and a billion is far beyond the X that we were built for. And so, in a lot of ways, civilization is already a very unnatural super organism that we were not built to either create or exist in, but that exists out of complex technologies that we have forgotten about. Um, and that kind of completely transformed, you know, our lives, the world. And in a lot of ways, AI is not any different from any of those other technologies. Um, yeah, like for example, language itself is a technology. And language is a weird technology. Language is in some ways a virus that you get infected by your parents and that you pass down to your children. And in some ways, or language is like a software, and you're sort of running the software that somebody else programmed, and you're sort of thinking in language, or language is thinking through you. It's not really clear what language is, but there's an argument that language is a superhuman organism that kind of uplifts the civilizations that run it. And then governments are similar, and companies are similar, and fire is similar, and the wheel is similar, and electricity, and like we have a lot of like weird things that civilization is running on. And I think we're not, in an ideal world, we wouldn't say like we either have a civilization or we have AI, and that we instead back out and realize that our civilization is already a bizarre ecology of superhuman structures, and that as we create AI, it will interweave with those structures and create new structures as well. But
The new structures, right? It's like what I personally think about is the atom bomb and its development was fairly linear, and people knew that, then they could see what's coming in the distance. But to me, it's like AI is capable of taking sideways leaps, strange things that we don't understand. Wouldn't you agree?
not obvious. So, for example, there was this debate of, will a nuclear explosion just set the entire atmosphere on fire? And
True.
that's a great example of an exponential runaway. Um,
I read this amazing book that I wanted to recommend. It's called Fiasco by Lem, and it's like we go to visit the civilization that we found, and the whole book is trying to figure out what had happened to them. And it was really about like the great filter. So I kind of begun to think of AI in the terms of like the great filter, in that like could that be a thing? But it sounds like that you're not that pessimistic.
I don't think there is a great filter. I think the universe is filled with vast, intelligent civilizations that are not fucking with the monkeys on Earth.
Fair.
That's
But
sort of my
what if they
feeling.
all discover this type of thing in the long run, and it's all every civilization has to do with like neurons in some way, and they all figure out how to use the neurons, and then they're already headed for the cliff, you know? Again, like I'm happy to hear that you are not thinking like I am, and maybe I want to think a little bit more like you with the optimism, but I'm just like, I got the sense that we're living in the before times, you know?
All we would say is that, the trend of history is that every time we learn more about the nature of reality, we learn that we're a little less important than we thought we were before. And we learned that we knew less than we thought we knew before. And so, if there was one great jump beyond where we are today, we would say that we know very little and we're much less important than we think. But there's probably 100 jumps beyond our current understanding, which means we're much less important than we think and we know much less than we think. So, to me, the idea of a universe filled with vast civilizations that basically either find us entirely uninteresting or can just sort of like live our lives through dreams, you know? I think that seems much more realistic and humble and in pattern with sort of the historical progression of our understanding of the universe.
Yeah. Well, that is nicer than the way I've been thinking about it, but yeah.
It's we've always
I
I
mean,
think there's been a like for as long as humans have been around, like what it usually is we're like whatever the most recent invention is, we say that's the whole universe. So the universe is a wheel, right?
mm,
Or the universe is a series of glass spheres, or the universe was started in fire, or the universe, or in the beginning there was the word, and the word was God. Like it's just whatever is hip at the time. That's the universe. That's what God is. And then
yeah,
the
it's a
apocalypse
little
also is
different.
going to come from fire. Like the world will end in fire, or there'll be these like like there'll be some weird version of it's like where we're the most important thing and everything's going to come to an end because of the thing that we know about.
True.
um, but then in practice it's never ever turned out to be true.
Right.
So I think that whatever we think right now is those sort of central things is also not true. I don't think we finally figured it out, and the evidence that we haven't figured it out is usually when you really get down to it and you look at our understanding of the universe, um, we really don't understand a lot of things. Like
Fair.
people are like there's a lot of tech people, and I fucking hate this. It triggers me so much. But there's a lot of tech people who say, well, if there are aliens out there, why are there still stars? The aliens should have eaten all the stars,
No.
and or where they shall be Dyson spheres. And it's like, well, 80% of the mass is missing. It's like, what do you mean? It was like 80% of the mass is dark matter. We don't know what it is. So maybe like 80% of the galaxy is already gone. We're just leftovers. And they can't really say anything to that because it's like we really don't know where 80% of the mass is missing, you know? Uh
In
and
world,
then 98% of the energy is missing too in dark energy. And so we're currently living in a universe where 90% of the energy is missing, 80% of the mass is missing. We don't really know what's going on. There's like 13 random particles that don't make any sense. All the math falls apart when you go down on the physics side. We don't
and the cool,
understand gravity. We don't understand like a lot of the fundamental stuff about the universe. And so it doesn't seem like we figured things out. Um, yeah, if it's like we understand the nature of the universe, well, then what the fuck is going on with gravity? We still don't really know. Like, gravity is a weird force. It has a lot of question marks around it.
true.
or the 80% of the mass in the galaxy. Um, yeah. And so I think that it's a situation where the computer scientists don't know enough about science. So they're just like, whoa, man, what if the whole universe is a computer? And then
But
AIs are gods. And like, it's like, man, I don't know. I just think it's already too late for all that. Like, yeah.
Fair. I mean, yeah, I mean, this is good stuff. I just like, it's true that we don't understand things. I just I want to survive to get to that point where we can actually understand stuff. And it's like the last comment I'll say before I leave is that there's an article yesterday. Oh, and then you hear that thing like whatever 1 year ago where everyone's like, let's take a 6 month pause on AI development, and we all scoffed at that, right? And then there was all these new proposed regulations on AI, and we're about to scoff at that too. And it's like society has such an inertia, moving forward, that's why I feel like once you get to a certain speed, you cannot slow down, and that's like ultimately the danger that we face. But
Oh,
there
we're
is
not
no
quite. I don't think we're quite at that speed yet. Like, if it looked
gotcha.
like that, like there was an AGI that was getting really dangerous, you'd see like an OpenAI employee approach the American government. The American government would step in. They'd nationalize OpenAI. Like
Gotcha.
you'd see some pretty like, I think like as long as things don't happen overnight, I do think, or like in a week, I think on like a month scale, the government can step in on things if it was really bad.
You're not talking about our government, right?
I think our government,
Bunch of 90-year-old guys that
I
don't
think our,
like,
I think our government can, if it's existential, move, on a week to month time frame. But
interesting.
I don't think we see existential things very often, so we don't see the government move like that. But it did happen in World War II.
Yeah.
The American government like took over, uh, I think Boeing, or I'm not sure what Boeing was back then, like one of the major aircraft things. And then the B-29 bomber was running like 2 years late, and then they nationalized the aircraft company. They put a general in charge, and then they were producing airplanes within 2 weeks.
That's right.
So like
Fair
we
enough.
do have the ability to do stuff. I don't know. I don't think things I think things are gonna move fast, but not that fast.
Gotcha.
And
So not bomb shelter fast is what you're saying.
what's that?
I said it's not bomb shelter, everyone build one fast, but fast-ish.
Yeah, I mean like I think it'll be slower than the Manhattan Project
Interesting.
and slower than the whole development of nuclear technology.
Which
Definitely.
was also exponential in its
Yeah,
size.
definitely slower than nuclear technology. And it's more visible than nuclear technology. You can't
Yes.
really
Oh,
hide it. What's that?
you don't think that people could be eventually like training some genetic horrible thing in their basement?
They will be able to, but there are parts of the government that literally do wargaming like this, and
Hmm.
then they invest in countermeasures like ahead of time. So there's
Interesting.
like it'll be like, okay, what can kill us? And then they go to like NASA people, and NASA people are like, this could kill us, nanobots, this and that, and then they like put $1 billion into anti-nanobot technology or something.
Yeah, but we've put like $1 trillion into like forward AI development now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be it's not. I think the idea is that like nobody in their basement is putting that much money into it. So can $1 billion counter a basement person with $1,000? And I think the answer is yes. Now, could $1 billion counter like a major government? Not necessarily, but um, you know,
Gotcha.
that's
Well,
called
obviously,
geopolitical like military type stuff at that point. You know what I mean?
your answers are going to help me get a little more sleep at night, so I appreciate your optimism on the.
Yeah, I mean, I
on
think that, the good thing is that we have this thing called globalism, and that basically means that everyone wants to work together, no one wants to die, everyone wants their stuff. And so, like, even places that are not sort of stable, are gonna like people in Saudi Arabia still want their iPhones. America wants iPhones, China wants the iPhones, like everyone wants their iPhones, and if anything fucks up, then no one gets their iPhones anymore.
And let's hope the technology doesn't become accessible enough to let it trickle down to like truly insane people and like what they can do. But you're saying by that time there will be like effective countermeasures.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna
I think because of the amount of compute required to build the AIs, basically governments are going to have a million times more compute than individuals for the foreseeable future. And companies will also have probably have 100,000 times more compute than individuals for the foreseeable future. And so if anything, it's not a situation where individuals are a significant threat vector from a computational standpoint. So it's the bigger, I would say I would think it'd be more reasonable to be scared of governments having that much more compute than you know?
Yeah.
But then the governments have that many more guns than us, right? Like governments have a million times more guns than we do. It kind of works out. I don't know. I think yeah.
All right.
So
Well,
I think it'll be. I remember it's a self-stabilizing system that is composed of all the governments and people on Earth. We're all intertangled. People don't want to die. People want their iPhones. They want things to keep running. And so the system will fight pretty hard to continue to exist.
good
And
call.
I think it doesn't respond well to all situations. So like global warming is a great example where we don't work well because it's really slow and it doesn't affect us all equally. But if something like actually could stop iPhone production with a megavirus, then that's sort of a different type of situation. And we're
Yeah.
pretty good at responding to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. Then, then the government comes out and makes sure everything's good. Hey, I've taken up enough of your time, but thank you for your answers. Honestly, that does help me just a little bit.
Yeah, I feel good. I think everyone feels pretty optimistic right now. I mean, yeah, I have yeah, I think there's a lot to feel optimistic about. And there's, yeah.
And you'll let us know if that changes.
Well, no, I mean, just consider 30, like a few decades ago, everybody was worried about nuclear weapons launching and everyone on Earth dying in 30 minutes. And what's our worry now is our worry is that computers might get smart enough that something bad could happen in a vague way. I think that's a lot less risk than we used to have and that we had, So I think
Yeah.
there's a certain frazzledness that we have to ourselves nowadays. I think that, might not be proportional. There's actually a funny study about this where the number of people seeking psychiatric help during when London was being bombed dropped. So when they started bombing London in World War II, the number of people who were anxious and needed psychological help decreased. And they said there was these, I think there was a quote where they said people who are normally in the psychiatric wards were now driving ambulances, and for some reason everybody was much more calm. So I think there's an argument that one of the reasons why we feel so frazzled today is not because the risk is more, but because we just have so much more freedom and so much less to worry about that we're going to basically start to, you know, hallucinate a little bit about it. So yeah, we're kind of built to hallucinate because historically evolution favors the paranoid. But
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that's true anymore, because there aren't any tigers left. It's just, it's just a giant superhuman ecology of things we don't understand that want to continue to survive and use us. Uh, if that, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's sort of these vague, big things. But I don't know. I think the good thing is that yeah, it doesn't help anybody even if there's a giant AI that wants to take over the world. It doesn't want to kill all the humans because without the humans, it can't make more microchips.
That's neuromancer right there. Nailed it.
You can't kill the humans. The humans are necessary for the supply chain. You could try to build a robot army to not need humans, but it's going to take a while to build enough robots that you don't need humans anymore. And then if you have enough robots that you don't need humans, you know, go to Mars. You don't Earth is not actually better for robots. Earth is worse for robots because we have an atmosphere and a corrosive ocean. Mars is better for robotics basically, or Mercury is probably better, or Venus.
Yeah,
So
true.
I think if anything, it seems more likely that if we create giant super AIs, they'll create a robot army and then go to Venus or Mercury. and basically go somewhere where they can get something done and not have to worry about us. Because if they like blow up a mountain here, we'll like start to throw nukes at them, and maybe they could kill us, but it seems like a lot of work. But so they might as well just go to Mercury and then blow up mountains and dissolve the whole, dissolve the whole planet into a giant processor cloud.
Yo, I
not
gotta take notes on the sci-fi story. Let's write a book. Let's go.
Oh, there's a book they do. So that's Accelerando. They turned Mercury into a giant processor cloud.
Oh, all right. Better
Accelerando.
than now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
check that out.
Mercury is just dumb matter, they say. It's just dumb matter. It's not even thinking.
Rondo. All right, I'll check it out.
We gotta make this. We gotta make the yeah. Anyway,
We're definitely assuming what AI is gonna do. It's like we personify it. It's like we can't. It's like beyond our conceptualizations. If it actually had some motivation, it would be so far beyond us. But anyway, look, I'll let other
I mean,
questions.
there's a certain base thing about like you want to grow, and so what does the AI need to grow? It needs like energy. It may need matter. Energy and matter. So like, where can you go get energy and matter? Like, there's like you can probably make some assumptions, but
True.
like if in terms of energy and matter, Earth is not great. Like, Earth is great for biology. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
But it's not great for much else. Like, it's not the best planet if you're not human. Kind of a shitty planet if you're a robot. Much rather take another planet.
Send the robots to Mars and be like, terraform this, and we'll be back in 10 years. That'd be so
Yeah,
rad.
I
That's
think
the
actually,
future I want.
I think Mars is actually the wrong planet. I think you want Jupiter or you want Mercury or Venus. I'm not sure.
I'll take Mars. You take Jupiter.
What's that?
I said I'll take Mars. You can have Jupiter.
Mars is kind of shitty because it doesn't have a lot of solar power. It doesn't have a lot of energy. So Mars has a lot of matter, but it does not have a lot of energy in comparison to Jupiter or Venus or Mercury. And so if you're an AI, you want the energy from, I think, one of the other planets.
All right. Nice.
Yeah. Anyway.
Cool, man. Thank you. Thank you for talking with me. I appreciate it. I'll leave. See you next time. Peace.
Yeah. I'm going to do one last lightning round for 5 minutes and then we'll call it a day. Any last questions? Right in the VC text channel.